Alright, so now I'm ready to cut my glass pieces, and first I need to glue these onto my glass. I don't want you guys gluing your pieces like this. Why?
You're wasting glass.
You're wasting so much glass. If you fit these like puzzle pieces on here, you can save all of this glass and somebody else can use this. And this has a straight edge on it, so I'm going to glue it on a straight edge because then I don't have to cut that. Okay? It's just one less step for you. This one, this edge is not that straight, but I can always grind that down a little bit. The only thing you have to make sure is that you're leaving enough space in between each piece that you can fit your glass cutter through that gap. So you just have to arrange them until you find a good position for them. Alright, so I have them all on this side of the glass, so when I cut these apart, I still have this piece. So if I accidentally break one of these, I still have a good chunk of glass to use, or I can give it to somebody else to use, okay? So once you've got them in the right position, I would like to check them before you glue them down because I've been doing it a lot more than you guys have, so I could probably arrange them in a little bit better way. So let me check these before you glue them down. When they're good, grab a glue stick, and we're just going to put a little bit of glue around the edges. We don't want to put a lot of glue on here because if you break this piece and you have to take this off and re-glue it, you don't want this to rip. So don't use a lot of glue. Do you see how close I'm gluing these together? So I'm not wasting any glass. When you cut or score your glass with the cutter, I think it's easier to stand up because then I can get more pressure because you have to push pretty hard. And then when you get towards the end of the glass, try to lift up so you're not smashing a hole into the ceiling tile board because that's what chips and breaks the blades. Okay, so I always stand up and cut, and the first thing I want to do is cut this piece off. So like I said, I hold my cutter with the blade down. Some people hold it with the blade up. Some people push it forward. Some people pull it towards them. I want you guys to kind of try a little bit of everything just to see what's more comfortable for you. And I put my index finger on top with this part in my palm. Okay, so you can hear that scratchy noise. That's the noise that you want to hear. I pressed pretty hard, and I got as close as I could to that pattern piece. Okay, so I'm going to use my running pliers, make sure there's a gap. If there's not a gap in here, it could smash your glass and shatter it. And I'm going to line the line on top of the pliers right with my score line. And just gently press the handles down, and it'll break right where you scored it. Okay, now I need to cut these shapes apart, so I can either cut it right here or I can cut it this way. I'm going to cut it this way. You can see I'm going really slow, so I don't cut anywhere where I don't want to cut. I'm going to cut these two shapes apart, and I'm going to cut as close as I can to this shape instead of cutting right in the middle of them, because then I have to trim this one and trim this one. If I cut really close to one, I only have to trim that other one. So I'm going to cut really close to this piece. Okay, so those are cut apart. these are cut apart. So now I have to cut the excess glass off of each piece. Okay? With these semicircles, you cannot cut this all off as one piece, otherwise it'll break. So you have to cut in small sections. So I'm going to start here and just do a very shallow curved line and break that off with my breaking pliers. Go right up to that score line, snap it off. Okay? You don't have to squeeze these handles together. You're not trying to smash your glass, you're just snapping it. Okay? So now I need to cut this little corner off. So another shallow curved line. Break it off. Another shallow curved line. Break it off. Okay, so I cut this in 4 cuts. Instead of doing deep curved lines, I did 4 shallow curved lines. Okay? So I'm going to do that on this one. I'm using the breaking pliers to snap off these little pieces. And you want to get as close as you can to your pattern the first time, because if I cut this out and left a bunch of glass around there, then you have to go back and cut it all again. So you want to just cut out your piece one time, get as close as you can that first time, because then pieces like this, I just can grind that stuff off. Okay? You can't grind a lot of glass, just tiny little pokey pieces you grind off. Alright. Okay, these pieces, I'm going to try to cut them off. They're very thin, but I would rather try to cut them off than sit at the grinder for 15 minutes trying to grind them down, because grinding is a very slow process and it takes a while. It's a lot faster just to try to cut off extra glass than to grind it. And then you'll notice that they might come off in smaller pieces or shards, and that's fine. Okay, and the rest of the stuff I can grind down. So, this is how you cut your glass pieces. After you guys cut out your 4 pieces of glass, you want to make sure that there is enough glass to grind down just a little bit. You don't want it right on or under your paper pattern. You want a little bit of glass above just to grind. But if it's more than this, that's too much to grind. Okay, it's way easier to cut this extra stuff off the side than to sit there and trying to grind all of that down. Okay, so I'm just going to take one piece at a time and bring it over to the grinder.